history in this shop, and we're privileged enough to have someone here actually making it. I'm here with Michele Hobbs from OTR Stillhouse, and she is the owner of the first female-owned distillery in the state of Ohio. And one of the things everyone's raving about is her gin. And we brought her here today to talk a little bit about her gin and a lot about her journey. So.
Hey.
Did good.
Yes. So thanks for allowing us to do this. It's great to get an opportunity to kind of showcase some of our stuff. So the golden gin is what's in this bag. And it's one of the 2 gins that we actually make. And what's fun about this gin, it's actually my go-to jam. This is it. So when I started working on the project back in 2014, I didn't have a distiller, I didn't have a license, I didn't have anything. And so the first thing I did is I tagged up with this guy named Dr. Tom Asquith. He's a quirky little guy, but he and I get along amazingly well, and he's a whiskey scientist. He actually retired from Brown-Forman, and he works on a lot of different things. He's a flavor scientist, he has patents and stuff, so I got with him and I'm like, I need to come up with something, because when we start making whiskey, when we get open, I'm not gonna have 4 years of not being able to sell anything. And I said, I need to make a gin that drinks like a bourbon. And he looked at me, and he's really, you know, with the mustache and, you know, the tube socks. He's like, Michele, that's not gonna work. And I'm like, I'm not trying to make a gin a whiskey. I'm trying to have it a gin that can sit neat or on the rocks. Mm-hmm. And that's what the concept was. So we spent some time at Lloyd Library in Cincinnati. I don't know if you know this place or not. The Lloyd Library is a world-renowned research library on botanicals. Literally, it's right down here. It's privately owned, but open to the public. So you go in there, and we just spent, you know, and he's a nerd. Like, he loves that. Especially that I was able to find him a library he had no idea even existed. It's one of those buildings that it reminds me of ADP, because ADP was headquartered downtown, and ADP on the 2nd floor is where they kept all their confidential contracts and all their confidential, you know, payroll data. If there's a fire, there's no sprinklers in there. Some kind of evacuation of all the air gets sucked out, so no oxygen is in that room. And as an employee, you have like seconds to get out. If you don't, you actually have to sign a waiver when you work there. If you're up there and this happens, you know this, you have to get out of this place. Same thing at Lloyd Library. All these ancient volumes of history for botanicals are on the 2nd floor. It's right next to the Firehouse Museum.
I know exactly where that is.
Yes, everybody has driven by 1,000,000 times, but you've never been in. I mean, that's just it. So we spent some time there, and the librarian at the time, you know, she'd have a little microfiche thing, and she was making this little bingo. And we said, we need any kind of volumes you have with juniper. And that would pull out the first thing we need. So she started bringing a couple volumes down. You're only allowed to use, like, have 2 at a time in your hand, and you have to copy them on a 10-cent little copier. Like, this place is like stepping back to, it's like a revival for our library. So we got a couple of things, but the interesting thing is that we found some recipes from the 1600s that, as far as we could tell, was a gin recipe. But if you look at the history of gin, it doesn't show up really till sometime in the 1800s. So Dr. Tom got really excited about that. And so we started working with those recipes, and we found some stuff in the 1800s, some things he liked. And what his specialty is making things work together. Because one of the reasons I think people a lot are turned off about gin is because the main ingredient in gin is juniper. And they don't like that piney smell or Christmas tree feel to it. So, or it's that, or they've had some cheap gin in high school and they got sick and they never drank gin again. And I mean, that's a fact, right? Yeah. That's the Paramount gin. You can get it, you know, at the gas station, I guess. So, you know, we try to find a way to take, okay, by law we meet the requirements of what's in that product, but we wanted to bring other energies to the palate, and things that don't take you back to your high school days, and things that make you feel like, wow, this is a good gin, I could sip this, I could drink this, because gin is, unless it's a gin and tonic, you know. Yep. That was what I was getting when I would start asking around, like, you know, about the gin to friends and like polling people, so to speak, it was two things. I can't stand gin. I got sick on it once and I'll never drink it again. Or my God, I love a gin and tonic. I love a gin and tonic. In the summer, sit down on the porch, you know, mow the grass. So, and that was it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna go selling gin.
Yeah.
But so he helped me come up with this. Dr. Tom gets all the credit. He came up with it. He would show me something and I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And it's just, I'm not a real skilled palate, you know, person, but.
This is pretty damn good.
I mean, so what this is I refer to it as the gin that went to boarding school in Louisville. So it grew up wanting to be a bourbon and it had no chance of being a bourbon, but it is sippable, neat, and on the rocks.
We're gonna put it to the test.
All right. And hey, so vintage, besides me here, I brought you this. So this is from the bar. So the bar at Knox Joseph is actually solid mahogany, and it was a bar that was brought in from Ireland. And it was sent and brought by Brazenhead. Was up in Warped Wing is there now. So Brazenhead was there, and the guy who owned that place passed away, and none of his heirs apparently wanted anything to do with the place, so it went to auction. The bar that's at our place was brought in from Ireland, hand milled in Ireland, and then shipped here, and the men who milled it in Ireland were shipped here to install it. It went on auction, and it was my biggest mistake in 2018, because I thought I was going to be open in a year, is that I got it at an auction and didn't realize you had to break it down, tear it down that day. And we had thousands of pieces of this bar in our way for 4 years. So Chris Mitchell at the time was with me, and him and I loaded this thing into a Ryder rental truck, and it was the bane of his existence for 4 years because he was just moving it from one place to another. He was just trying to, it was horrible. Had buyer's remorse right away. And then we got to building the place, and this guy named Manny, and Chris had given him a picture of rendering what he thought it would look good on a wall. And Manny just started separating pieces. It was like one great big puzzle. And so now when you come there, but so with the extras, I took and I had these pins made. So these is the authentic wood from that. So it's a vintage, and it is authentic, and there's a certificate of authenticity in there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love it.
One of these days I'll be able to inscribe them too, like put our logo on them.
Well, they look great.
Yeah,
So does your
it's
bar.
nice.
If you haven't
Thank you.
checked out her bar, you need to go. It's absolutely incredible. So what do you say? You can open it?
Sure,
Next
sure.
time? Do you guys? Can you just for a second talk about your bottle and the inspiration? Because it's part of the whole story. And it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah. So what the story? That's kind of funny because, like, you know, Michele Hobbs deciding to do a distillery in 2014 was kind of like the dumbest idea ever. But what had happened was I had gotten this great building, and I knew this building could be something iconic, and I knew that it needed to be something you know, to bring more people into Over the Rhine, and you know, like you love your Cove,
Yep.
I love my OTR,
Yep.
and we're just brand ambassadors for our city, and so it to me is like, what do you do? And so I got this piece of property in a really unusual way, and so I started reaching out to some of the folks who really should have been doing a distillery over there, or a restaurant concept, or you know, beer winery, you know, a distillery bourbon thing, and every one of these guys who had the capacity to do this came in, and they just kind of said, "Oh wow, this is amazing, Michele! I just can't believe it. How much you want for your building? They're just going to buy it from you." And I was like, "Wait a minute! I'm like, I have a family too. You know, like,
Right.
so I need to have. Why can't I have a little piece of the action down here?" And it basically just forced me into this industry. I mean, I was always on that side of the bar in restaurants, you know, and that's why I know all the chefs and all the servers and stuff throughout the city, just like you would over here, because we patronize them.
Right.
I mean, I've been downtown since 1996 in Over the Rhine. I've been at 45202 since 1996.
Been a minute.
In a minute.
Yeah.
And so it was really upsetting to think that, you know, no one wanted to rent my building, but they rent from everyone else.
Yep.
So anyway, so it forced my hand to do it, and just started making contact. So I didn't have a story of history on like being a distiller or a brewer. I had no idea, you know. So, but I leaned on people who did. Dr. Tom Asquith, Larry Ebersold. I mean, my God, his name in this, he's, as far as a distillery, you know, consultant, he's likely the most requested distillery consultant in the nation, 100%. And probably in the world. And he's retired. He happens to live in Northern Kentucky, so we were pretty lucky on that. So anyway, so with him, and then I didn't, you know, we weren't open, hadn't been funded yet, so I started wanting to talk about my bottles and what I was going to do, and started finding out how expensive they were. And that always made me nervous, because I didn't want to just go into another round bottle. I didn't want to look like, you know, everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so the concept was, I knew, because I supported so many over the Rhine restaurants, I knew there was no room for me on the shelves. Like even in here, like you guys have so many more bottles than the last time I was here, and all your shelving and stuff that you've put here over the years and stuff, it's amazing. So if I said to you, and let's say this is like, you know, a restaurant, I mean, like you say, Michelle, I'd love to carry your product, but I don't have any room for you. So the goal would be, as soon as someone said that, I'd say it's not a problem at all. And I'd slide it in between there, because the name is actually as a bookbinder, and you could still read it and you could pick it up, and I would fit on their shelf. So that started with that. And then if you turn it this way, I have kind of a billboard. It's really nice. I've got a light. The inside map on all of the bottles just shows the land, what it was in 1891, which at the time it was, and I found this map, and this started it all. At the time it was in the EPA study I had to have done for the loans on the building. And so when I was going through that study before the loan was approved, it said, you know, because I was just buying the property, it says that the Standard Ice Manufacturing Company was there in 1899. I'm like, holy shit, that means they're on top of the aquifer. They had to go down and get that because there was no plumbing back then. And so everything started with the water. Like, I'm gonna use this water, this is how I'm gonna do it. So in the state of Ohio, you own the mineral rights. So it just, that's what started me calling people and reaching out and to see if we could actually do this. Knox Joseph is my son. Wyatt Jack, Gin, I mean, it just sounds like I named them after the gin, but I named the gin after them. They were born, and we were trying to figure out names. My first name for the distillery was, and I registered in June of 2014, was Born Again Distillery. I really liked that name. A lot of people who I reached out to, it's like, Michelle, you really should reconsider the Born Again Distillery. And I'm like, why? I'm like, it's like, this is over the Rhine. It's all being born again. Like, you pick up every article, it talks about it's born again. I'm like, why can't I be Born Again Distillery? And then like, and the acronym was BAD, like literally B-A-D. And they're like, Michelle, it's bad. I'm like, I know. It's like bad isn't good or bad isn't bad. They're like, it's just bad. So we had to go back and figure out what else to do. So naming it after our kids, it just makes it like, now it's our story. They're all books now. Yeah. So the vodka is My Girl Pearl. It was Pearl vodka until I got a cute little cease and desist. But if you remember, go back in time when I started this stuff in 2014 doing research, there was no Pearl vodka that I could be found. And so all of our stuff went through TTB and everywhere else and never got kicked back. But you know, what do you do? I mean, like, do you just try to fight on a name? I had printed 2,000 labels, which they probably throw away 2,000 labels a day. But I have to save every one. And I sent them a letter. I'm like, couldn't you just be a little nicer? And like, I'm a startup down here, you know. I could use some help. You guys have been around. You know, come on down. I invite you down, and like, maybe you can show me some things, you know. And they weren't interested in that. So I just simply changed it from Pearl Vodka to My Girl Pearl.
The coolest thing that you were talking about is Born Again and all the history. And when we came here to do this, I had no idea how much we had in common about literally reviving history and almost rebranding it. So I'm excited to try this. Let's pour it. Everyone,
one more cute little thing. I mean, There is, I was involved in a really difficult custody battle.
Yes.
And so I have a daughter named Lucy, and that I don't get to see. Her birth certificate, so I didn't leave her off of here. That's her birth certificate with her little feet on there.
That's adorable.
So my name is on that birth certificate, along with Lucy, along with my ex. But back then we didn't have marriage equality,
Yeah.
so I literally didn't have any rights to my daughter. But she will be 18 in this month.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah.
I love all the details, from your bottles to your shop, even in your restrooms.
Yes.
I love
My
it.
Govit flush.
All right.
So I never tear the strip. I just like always put it in the bag. So. Yeah. So we own the bottle. We own the mold, and it's a big deal. Except you have to order 16,000 at a time.
Oh,
Yeah. But we own it, and then the leather strap and the cap concept on that was, this is flint glass, and it's a very substantial, heavy bottle.
Yep.
My thought is, like, I want people to keep the bottle and don't throw it away. It took a lot to get this made in here, and so
That is not a light
it's
bottle.
not a light bottle. It's not a well bottle. It's not like something that's going to be easy for that. But
Yeah.
my bartenders, our staff, they're used to it now. It's just a matter of getting used to it. I mean, look at all the different sizes of bottles that you guys use. But so it's actually a decanter, if you notice the top. So you can use it, after it's empty, and then put, like, use as a water bottle in your fridge. It
And you
doesn't
have
take
like
up
a
much
sling
space.
for it too, though, right?
I have a sling. There's a woman who retired from the playhouse up in the park, and right now she actually was flown to the Norwegian cruise ships because 3 new staff members were brought on, and she's making costumes for them. So it's funny because she's that specialty type of person, but she actually makes these. I should have brought one of the felted wool bottle sleeves. They're made to fit that in, and it'll hold your water tempered. Just like the guys who used to be in the war would have a canteen with the felted wool around it, and the cap that had the little strap, that's kind of like the canteen.
That's exactly what it looks like. That's what I was
Yep.
thinking about originally. You
Yeah.
might get me 3 more glasses
Yeah.
down there.
So,
Well, cheers, everyone.
cheers,
Right.
you're here.
so the difference between this is, like, you get the juniper, right?
Yep.
And it comes off a little on the sweet side, right?
Yeah.
So, and the smell, but that's,
It's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
think you did. I think you accomplished your goal.
so, and I like looking at the legs on everything, but so it's just, this little gin. So if you notice, like, if you think about gin, most gin, and how I describe it, is from the stem. They're botanicals. They're getting the rain and the sun and all the bright things in the world and the mean things in the world. Well, but its life comes from the dirt. I'm using roots. So instead of using more floral stuff, we literally went to the dirt in order to give it this not so bright taste. Now, if you've got a really great palate, okay, there's a hint of honey in there. We use honey. So at the time, we were raising our own bees on our roof. Well,
All in.
The more I hear, the more I love.
let me tell you, thousands and thousands of dollars invested in this, all right? And then we're doing construction, and it's in the summer of 2020? Summer 2021. And we're harvesting honey. We've been getting honey for, and making our stuff and using it. Well, on the construction or the lawns getting ready to be, freaking things swarmed. Guess what? I'm like, you guys can't have that. I mean, can you imagine if you've got 1,000 people on site and these bees decide that, phew, like they're right there.
Yeah.
So I was like, guys, we have to move these bees. So the bees have been moved off site, but there's honey in there. And I can't tell you if they're coming from our bees or not because our hives went to like 3 different places, you know, but the intent was that it was our bees. So my intent with this gin was like from the sky, from the dirt. The sky was the bees, you know? So like a surf and turf, but you know, like a sky and dirt, I don't know. So, but it is good. It tastes like you could sip it neat or on the rocks, can't you? Yeah. Would you do that with any other gin, really? That roundness in the mouth is one of the things that Dr. Tom is so good at doing. So if you look like he was the James Scott whiskey, Dr. Thomas, the scientist, you know, talking about how to bring them together. Chris was doing the blending. I mean, they did something really spectacular on that as well. But that whole thing about how do you make because those are the only blends, you know, the gin and the blended whiskey. Everything else, you know, you have to, you know, you sit and cross your fingers on. Like how these work together is what's so interesting to me.
In a good way.
Do you like it?
I love it. That's why.
Yeah.
It's really drinkable. It's a perfect, you know, for being hot.
So you know what this is really great with, I think? Freaking seared scallops. Like, you know how people are always pairing things with wine? You know, this with like seafood, like grilled seafood, you get a char on something, like a good pan sear and a little bit of butter. It really pairs well. Some fresh corn, like we're putting that on the menu as a special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm gonna put it with the gin.
You should. It's so good. And thank you seriously so much for sharing your
Sea
story
bass,
and
that
bottle.
oily,
So
you know?
good.
Yeah, that's great.
No, thank you.